Well, hey there, friends. Welcome to episode 228 of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, and I'm starting this podcast off laughing, but I don't know why, because this is not a super fun topic. So maybe that's why I'm kind of trying to make light of it, but it's not a light topic. Many of my clients lately, of the shop owners and retailers and all over the globe that I've been working with, have had questions, conversations. It's come up in our mastermind group. It's come up in my open coaching program. It's come up in my inner circle program during our monthly open coaching call. And that is the topic of loss prevention, although most retailers don't call it that, but that's what it's called, is when, theft and safety and things that are going on inside your store. So I thought I would put together a podcast, originally planning to put together a podcast with an expert. And I had conversations with a few experts, and I've been trying to get some people. Nobody would say yes. It's time. We need to have a conversation. So I'm going to share some of the tips that I've learned from them and some of the things that have been working for my clients, and just some maybe common sense things that we are not always doing that we know we should be doing, and share with you my take on how to prevent, so loss prevention. And we're going to touch a little bit on your safety and your staff safety, and what that looks like. And I think that's a really important topic right now, especially right now. The shop's busy. You're going to get busier. You're going to get busier. We get distracted. Our shops are full. They're full of things, and we're juggling a lot of balls. There's a lot of cool things happening, a lot of busy things happening. And we want to make sure that we are really paying attention to every piece of inventory and everything that's going on in our shop, so that we can see the most profits and, stay the safest that we can. So grab a pen. This is going to be an action item. I don't know if that's what we call this. This is going to be a step-by-step what you should do to protect your inventory, protect yourself, and help your staff stay safe. Okay, let's get into it. Running a retail business doesn't have to be so hard. Welcome to the Creative Shop Talk podcast, the go-to podcast for creative shop owners, studio owners, and independent retailers. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, retail business coach and mentor. Each week, I'll share simple, proven business strategies, inspiring stories from fellow retailers, and advice from industry experts. Together, we're going to work to find the success you want from your retail business, with more profits in your till and a little more joy in your life. Okay, why we care. I mean, I think it's obvious. It's funny. I have had this conversation with clients before about loss prevention, and sometimes they're like, I don't know. We don't really do a lot. And one of the things that we really, really need to remember, always foremost, like the number one thing, is our inventory is what makes us money, right? Our inventory is what makes us money. So if we want to be profitable, why are we working so hard if we're letting people walk out the door? And I've had people say it's just a fact of life, and it's just, part of doing business. I've heard that line before, and it doesn't always have to be. So we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of really having a handle on our inventory to help help preventing loss. And I think it's really important as well that we have the conversations with our team, so that they know what to do and what we can do to prevent the different types of theft. And sadly, there are two types of theft. I think we need to remember that. There are two types of theft, and the first kind is, other people coming in and stealing things from our shop, shoplifters, as we like to say. And the second type is internal theft, staff theft. And that part, every time I say that out loud, it makes my stomach turn a little bit. And you're probably like I always was, and thinking that would never happen to me. I have great staff. And that was exactly where I was, and not with my shop, by the way. If I'm not so much with my retail shop, because I learned a lot of things ahead of time. But when I owned my coffee shop, and I've shared this publicly here on the podcast before, I had staff members that I loved. And I have also shared this, that at one point I even was going to co-sign a loan for one of my members or one of my team members. I didn't, thankfully, but that's how close we were and how much I love these people. And they were robbing me blind. They were stealing from me, and I couldn't figure out why my cost of goods were so high. And they were giving food away to their friends, and oh, it's just a sandwich, or it's just this. And they were, pocketing or not charging people and pocketing a little bit of cash here and there. People would pay cash. Anyway, all of this to share that even the most trusted people that you have on your staff, we still need checks and balances in place. We still need to be aware. We still need to make sure that we are protecting our cash and having systems in place there, and our inventory. So a couple of things that we need to make sure that we do is really, first of all, building a culture of awareness. And what does that look like? It's really making sure that our team are just as aware and having these conversations with our people. So our staff need to be paying attention to customers coming in. Our staff need to be paying attention to maybe the rules and regulations or the systems that we have placed. They need to know that you're paying attention. As the leader, as the owner, as the CEO, you need to be paying attention, and they need to know. And one of the things I think, I know from my experience, is if you have a unsystemized cash situation going on, if you have chaos maybe or messy inventory management, if you just don't seem like you have your eye on the ball or you're not paying attention, that's where problems happen. So I want to make sure that you have those systems in place, or that you have checks and balances in place for how we cash up and how we have our petty cash every day. We need to count our cash and do our cash up. That's a great way to help. Another way is to make sure that we have a POS system that we're checking regularly. We're making sure that we are checking our inventory, and we're checking all of the things that we need to be checking. So that's just a couple of things on the operational side. And that comes from you. That comes from your culture, leadership down. We always talk about leadership down. So we want you to be in control, and we want your team to understand. And we also want them to understand that it is important to talk about, shoplifting and all the things involved around that. So we want to make sure that we are actively engaging everybody that comes in the door. So how we prevent shoplifting, our best tips for preventing shoplifting is actually watching people, letting people know shoplifters don't want to be acknowledged. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be like, they just kind of want to move in and they want to come in. And we've all either seen it on the cameras or we've seen it happen, but we want to make sure we say hello and we engage them. And that's where your team has to also be doing that. We want to be doing that anyways for customer service, but thieves want to avoid attention. So make sure that customer interaction is part of your shop's routine for added safety, for added visibility, and also a bonus of that's probably how we should be greeting people anyways. We also want to make sure that we have a layout for visibility. Our store should be laid out so we can see. So the blind spots, there's not big, deep blind spots in our shop. This will help prevent theft. We want to use mirrors. We want to ensure our counters have we want to make sure we have clear views to as many spots as possible. So this is a really big thing. And a lot of us don't think about that. We just start merchandising because it looks good. So pay attention to the layout of your store. Another tip is to walk through your shop and identify areas where visibility could be improved. Maybe we just move this to the right or to the left, or we add a mirror. That's not a bad thing. It's actually good to be able to see your clients anyways. We can also add an inexpensive surveillance. I hate the word surveillance, but we can add, dummy cameras, and we could add actual cameras. It's not that expensive nowadays to include cameras. I highly recommend having cameras, and I highly recommend having a camera over your cash and not a dummy camera over your cash. And I feel resistance, or I get resistance from clients sometimes around that. But what I love to tell people is that protects your employee just as much as it protects or if you think that they think that's saying you don't trust them, that's the feedback I always get. I want you to think about the fact that it's actually there to protect them. So if there is no theft and there's no problem, but there's some money missing, let's find out what happened. So we don't automatically say, well, you were on cash and there's money missing. So just a camera over your cash is a really, really good idea. So again, mirrors, affordable cameras, even rings, ring, and those types of cameras are they're easily accessible now. So we don't always need dummy cameras, but we do want to have the presence. But having camera system is the greatest part. The other thing we want to make sure is that we're installing signs. The old-fashioned smile, you're on camera, like it does have an effect on your business. It tells the shoplifters, just like it tells your employees or it tells anybody, we're paying attention. We got our stuff together here in our little shop. It's not, okay, I'm going to back up. I hate when I say like really big security camera signs everywhere. It's like, I don't know, you know what I mean? And I understand the feeling of that, but it's okay to have signage that says you have cameras and that, smile, you're on camera, like in a nice way. And because I also get feedback around, I don't want to sound like we're like a protective place, but we have to protect our assets, inventory, and your people. Your people are really important. And if you care about the safety of your people, you're going to want to have those signs and you're going to want to deter as much as possible any kind of shoplifting or bad guys, as you will, coming into our shop. So, and a couple of things I'm just going to go back to preventing employee theft. One of the things that I always recommend is having a really good inventory management system. We all need POS systems now. There's no such thing as not having a good inventory management system. So what we want to do is make sure that we're tracking our inventory regularly and we're auditing our stock, inventorying our stock, right? We're checking. This doesn't mean a whole shop audit or whole shop inventory every month, although I do think we need to have inventory every month, but we can do rotating stock counts. Ensure that your staff is super aware that inventory is closely monitored. So also on that, we want to make sure that they are not the ones doing all of the inventory. You need to do it or you need to swap it out. You need to make sure it's moved around. We don't want, oh gosh, there's a name for it. I can't, I've lost the word of the name of the word. Anyway, I've lost the word. There is a word for basically if I'm the one who counts the cash every night and I'm the one that reports how much the cash is every night and I'm the one that says how much I put in the bank every day. There's no checks and balances to see if I'm telling you the truth, right? So we want to have multiple checks along those things. And I know you might only have a few people in your staff and that's fine, but we just want to make sure, again, this is for your employees' safety as well as yours, but we do want your people to understand that you have a clear inventory management system and you are watching it. The other thing is, and I keep talking about checks and balances, but separation of duty. There. See, middle podcast, middle of sentence, Wendy can remember the name. Separation of duties. That's related to things like your cash handling or handling cash, inventory, bookkeeping. We don't want a single employee to have too much control. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know that to be true. Sometimes I feel like crying when I'm going to talk about this, but I know that to be true from a couple of clients who've had bookkeepers do bad things. So you need to be in charge of those things and or making sure other people, when I say you need to be in charge, you need to monitor and audit. Doesn't mean you're doing all of it, but you need to monitor and audit and be on top of things. So anyway, that goes back to the whole way we should run our businesses. However, separation of duty is really important. And honestly, we really just want to foster an honest work culture. And I know we all want to do that, but we want to build, a trusting and positive work environment. We want everybody to feel valued. We also want them to feel incentivized, maybe to act always in the best interest of the business. So having, maybe rewards and bonuses for hitting inventory control targets or encouraging employees to help protect the store. There's different things you can ask them what they think and having them involved. However, the overall thing around preventing employee theft we have the cameras, we have checks and balances in place, we have systems and operation procedures. It's also paying attention. And this is for their protection as well. It's not that we don't trust them. It's just that it does happen. It is such a high figure of people that have employees that do theft. Like it's sad, actually. It's really sad. And theft isn't just the monetary, the money side from the cash. This isn't what I'm just talking about. I'm talking about inventory as well, right? So again, talking about handling situations and shoplifters. When it comes to handling shoplifting situations, let's talk about this in advance with our team. I hope you have a policy in place. I hope you have a plan in place. First and foremost, we want to protect our employees. We want to make sure that they feel safe. So we do not want to confront shoplifters. This is best information from most of the experiences that I've encountered, from the conversations I've had with police officers. I've had conversations with prevention and loss people different areas. And so we do not want to confront shoplifters, and we do want to have a system and a plan in place for this. So we want to stress with our employees the importance of safety. So it's best not to confront them, and because we just don't know, like, especially now, I mean, honestly, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you don't know. We just don't know, right? People are kind of crazy pants right now. So we just want to pay attention. So instead of confrontation, we want to maybe look at their appearance and take any notes down. If they have a vehicle license, we just don't want to approach them. And I know that's hard. But we do. And then what we do want to do is call the police. We want to have a system in place again so that our employees always have access to a phone. It's okay as well for your employees to call police if something feels off. And if they tell them to trust their instincts, it's okay. Police are trained better than you are to handle these situations. And again, just a note on maybe things like break-ins, and have a conversation with your staff about safety, but have a conversation with them about, if you show up for work and you think maybe somebody broke into the shop, please do not go in the store. And I say this from experience because I had a client one time who did go into the store. Her staff went into the store, and her first thing to me was like, oh, that was so dumb. Why did she do that? But, she was there and the door was ajar. It kind of looked like she wasn't really sure, so she went in. So let's have these conversations with our staff. We want them to be safe. So if you suspect a break-in, don't go in, call 911 and wait from a safe location, because you don't want to go in. In the case of my client, she went in to the shop. Her employee went into the shop, and there was a man in the shop, and it was okay. It turned out okay, but it could have gone another way. So that's always stuck with me, because it was a dangerous situation for her employee. But everything was fine. So at the end, but it was a very scary situation, and we don't want that. We don't want that for our employees, and we don't want that for our businesses. So we do want to make sure, again, I'm just going to reiterate, we want to make sure that we're managing inventory variances. So we want to make sure, now that we know, we should be tracking inventory and auditing our inventory and having a robust, POS system, checking our inventory. So let's talk about what is a regular number? What does it look like? So let's make sure that we are tracking our numbers, and we are making sure we're not just going in and adjusting. Now, have these conversations with your accountant. This is always my best advice. However, we don't want to see a variance normally, like more than 2%, right? So we want to keep it under 2%. So 2% of your inventory, and it could be different in your world. There's different product lines that might be a little bit different, but we don't want a big number. Think about your inventory. That is your money. That's money sitting on the counter. Everything that somebody steals from you is stealing money. So if they steal a pen, that is stealing a percentage of your assets, off your balance sheet. So we want to make sure that we are paying attention to exactly how much inventory we have, and exactly how much we should have, and exactly how much we do have. So we want to make sure that we're checking all the time, spot checking all of the time. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. I just wanted to remind you to be aware, remind you to not confront shoplifters, remind you to have a robust system. And I guess remind you that there's two types of theft, right? There's external people coming in and shoplifting from you and stealing from you, and internal theft. And the internal theft is sometimes harder to deal with. Not sometimes harder, it's emotionally harder to deal with, but it happens every day. I've told you it's happened to me. I actually have conversations probably every month with different clients who are shocked that it happened to them with their staff. And so as sad as it is, as hard as it is, make sure that you're protecting them and you are putting those checks and balances in place. We really do want to protect that. We also want to be able to handle that. And we want to sort of avoid that as well. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful for you today. It's kind of like, this is like the medicine shows. I always say it's more fun to talk about marketing, and it's more fun to talk about like running the business and, all the fun things that we can talk about. And next week, we're actually going to be talking about, next week here on the podcast, I'll be sharing with you some things that we should do at the end of every month. There's some things that we could do to prepare for a month. And, that's kind of fun because that's good things, right? It's all good things and part of our playbook that we give our clients every month. But we have to talk about theft. We have to talk about the icky things because that's part of the reality of running a real retail business, right? We have customers walking in every day. They're walking through our shops. We own all this inventory. We do all the things. So let's protect our assets and let's make sure that we are also protecting our employees and ourselves so that we're safe. Okay, my friends, I hope you found this helpful. I would love to know your thoughts and your takeaways and what you do. What are some things that you do? We are always crowdsourcing new information to help other retailers. So find me on Instagram at Wendy Batten Biz and share on the post what you're doing. We would love to know, what are some things, some simple things that you're doing inside your shop to help protect yourself and help protect your business and your brand and that thing that you're working so hard towards, and how you manage all that as well too. So thank you for listening, my friends. I hope you have a great week, and join us next week here on the Creative Shop Talk podcast. As I mentioned, we are bringing some information about a monthly playbook, that how we roll inside my Retailers Inner Circle program, and some suggestions on what we should be looking at the end of every month, some fun things and marketing things. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. See you next week. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm so glad that you're here to join us this week, and I hope you found value in what we're sharing here. I want to remind you that our website has all of the show notes. You can find it at wendybatten.com/podcast. Everything that you need to hear about today's podcast is there. Also an opportunity if you need to reach out to me. If I can support you in any way whatsoever, please feel free to reach out. So thanks for joining us. Please leave a review, subscribe if you can, and never miss an episode. We hope to see you back here again next week. Thanks, my friend. Have a great week.